when I was a little girl, I wasn't one of those girls that wanted a Barbie. I wanted to be Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali, the combination of the two. I wanted to be able to kick and punch.
Of course.
Those were my heroes. And I remember Muhammad Ali. I mean, Bruce Lee once said, "The worst opponent you can ever have is a man that has nothing to lose." And I just remember thinking about that growing up, and those kinds of things made me stay out of trouble. But looking at Muhammad Ali's undeniable believing in himself when everybody else did not believe in him, when people doubted his stand, when people criticized him, I understood at a very young age, like that was what a hero was. And I remember making the distinction between Muhammad Ali and Michael Jackson, like that I remember thinking to myself, I want to be like Muhammad Ali. And my friends would be like, because we would talk about being famous, and they would say, you don't want to be like Michael Jackson famous? And I was like, no, because while Michael Jackson ran away from the people, Muhammad Ali walked with them. And so that was why he was always my hero. He was just a citizen of the world. Everybody loves him. And I had the opportunity to actually meet him. And it was, I spent an afternoon with him. His favorite dessert was baklava, and he shared his baklava with me. He got his baklava delivered to him every day. He was in LA from a bakery, a local bakery in Beverly Hills would all bring him baklava every day that he was there. And they said he would never share it with anybody. He wouldn't share it with anyone. But one thing he said to me was, the road for you is not gonna be easy, because you're gonna move culture. You're gonna do things in the world that are gonna change culture. So when it gets rough, just remember what I went through. And it's gonna be hard for you because you're not gonna pander. You're not gonna be a clown. So wait it out. You're gonna be a late bloomer, and it's gonna happen for you. And that was one of the biggest days of my life. Like nothing. No award, no accolades from the industry, nothing could ever match up to getting words from someone who was persecuted for standing up for people.
Yeah, Ida, can I jump in on that?
Sure.
So first of all, his favorite dessert being baklava is the most Muslim thing Muhammad Ali ever did. And he was plenty Muslim. But he spoke from experience there, because like what he was telling you is if you're gonna be a rebel and you're gonna do it your way, well, the people you're rebelling against aren't gonna be happy about it, and they're not gonna give you a hand up. And so that's totally true. And nobody understood that better than Muhammad Ali. They wouldn't even say his name. And he had the courage to go to prison to live out his principles. I mean, and we now celebrate Muhammad Ali and Martin Luther King and those folks, but they were not celebrated at the time. I mean, they were celebrated by some, but they were despised by others, and the status quo hated them. And so it's just by definition, if in the beginning you're getting praise, good, you're doing wonderful things, probably in a fairly standard career track, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if you're rebelling and you're getting criticized, understand that's part of the equation. You're supposed to be. So stay strong. Listen to what Muhammad Ali told Ida. Stay strong. Now I'll add one last thing to that. I remember, I don't know if Muhammad Ali knew this, but his context was America. And in America, he had converted to Islam, and so, and he did it for political and ideological and spiritual reasons. And I think it had a big impact here, and it was very controversial. But I don't know if he knew to the extent to which Muslims across the world loved him for it. Right. And I remember when I was a little kid, my dad and I would get up in the middle of the night to watch Ali fights, because he was for us, and that's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, he was citizen of the world. He was someone that saw all human beings as equal and fought for it, and was never going to allow the modern day establishment or media demonize people of color from around the world. And you can only respect someone like that because that is what being a real humanitarian is. And so in these moments, now we got Twitter and we got people sending us awful tweets and messages, but the truth is that that's nothing compared to being called, the N-word, being, being incarcerated, being called a traitor. So I'm just thankful that I was able to meet one of my heroes and be able to have a sit down with him and share that baklava. Was absolutely amazing. It was warm and it was good. And he was just very proud of being somebody who understood humanity on that level. And those are the kinds of heroes that we need, people that are able to speak up when it's not popular. It's easy to, to run with it right now. And, I get it all the time. Stick to comedy. Why are you talking about racial injustices? Why do you always have to bring up race? Why can't you just tell your jokes? Like, that's ruining your career. And there are networks and there are executives that don't want anything to do with me because of it. But I always hold on to my Muhammad Ali, because at the end of the day, who won?
Who was the greatest that ever was? I'll before you go to your next person, let me add one last story to that. So recently, I was at a mosque in Simi Valley, and I got the pleasure of listening to Hussam Marlouche give a speech there. He's the chief executive officer of Council on Islamic Relations in California. And he didn't know I was in the audience. I don't know that he would have cared or anything. He's not. He's Muslim. He's not black. It's relevant to the story. And there were, there are a lot of Muslims across the world that are black. In the mosque, there was a couple that day, but it was largely non-black audience that he was speaking to. Now we're brown, etc. We're all different shades, but he gave a long and wonderful speech about how you have to go thank your African-American brothers and sisters. They gave us the freedoms that we enjoy now. And if it wasn't for them, as bad as Muslims sometimes have it in this country these days, it would have been far, far worse. And he explained how black civil rights leaders gave us not just the freedoms, but the protections that we desperately needed in these times. And he said, make sure you understand that and you look up to your black leaders. I love that speech. I absolutely love that speech. And guys like Muhammad Ali, again, I don't know if he knew the true extent to how much he made a difference, but he made a little Muslim kid like me in Turkey who wasn't black look up to a black guy as my hero. And that's just giant impact. So go do that in the world.
Yeah, and a little girl, a little Puerto Rican girl, Puerto Rican Dominican girl in Miami whose grandmother didn't speak English.